Welcome back to our live coverage here on special stage of the penultimate round of the MGJ Engineering Circuit Rally Championship. It is the Alan Healy Memorial Rally from Cadwell Park, and the sun is out. It is glorious here in Lincolnshire, but thankfully, if you're watching the action, you'll notice that it's pretty slippery out there on the stage. In fact, if we can just pan the camera around, you'll be able to see the stage at the top of the mountain here, where the cars have gone through on stage one, and the grass as well is looking more like a rallycross stage. And of course, Cadwell Park used to host rallycross. Remember World of Sport back in the 60s, 70s and 80s. Well, it's not rallycross here today, despite it looking that way. It's just very slippery. We've had wall-to-wall rain on the build-up to the rally. Dry, cool and some sunshine today basically means it's greasy as hell here. Not much action so far this season. It's one of the first events of the year. Of course, they've had some track days at Cadwell Park, but particularly under the trees in the woodland section of the circuit. We haven't yet had any of that, but we will as we go into the afternoon stages. Very entertaining. It's going to be pretty entertaining on stage two, simply because everybody was sideways. There's mud everywhere and gravel dragged out onto the stage in various places, and everyone will be gunning for it and trying to make up for lost time on the second stage of the day. And it's a bit of a sprint stage as well. Quite the top 10 we've got for you. Newly crowned, mathematically speaking, Circuit Rally champion John Griffiths. Emma Morrison alongside, arriving here in the Lincolnshire Wolds with number 1, and it's a target roundel on the door. 2021 Circuit champion Mark Kelly, Neil Coleman behind in car number 2. Michael Igo arrives fresh from his Donington Park victory in the Rally 2 Fiesta. And at the moment, John Griffiths and Erin Morrison lead the way with just 2 seconds of an advantage from Mark Kelly and Neil Coleman. Ollie O'Donovan and Ashley Morris fresh from Rally de Grasse in France in the Hyundai i20 R5 in 3rd place. Just 5 seconds back from Kelly. And there he is, number 1 on the door, number 1 on the leaderboard. John Griffiths, Emma Morrison, newly crowned Circuit Rally champions, threading their way through this second stage of the day. 2 miles less on the stage format for this second stage. We've dropped a lap effectively, which, as you may know, Cadwell Park is 2.25 miles long. So actually that makes sense, because they're doing most of the club circuit and a bit of the Nadgery infield section through the pit lane, up the service road from the pit lane to the top of the mountain, then A quick 90 right, hairpin left, which is what you're looking at now with the mud that's been dragged off, actually mostly by the Xneta G40 of Nick Hurt and Ollie Matteson on that first stage, which they took a maximum for, getting it all wrong. As you see, our 2021 champions, Mark Healy, Neil Coleman, popular crew here in the Circuit Championship, and it's great to see them back. They've been out for a year or so, dipping their toes on a couple of events, and here they are at Cadwell Park, a circuit and a rally venue that Mark Healy knows well. He did his ARDS racing license here. He's won here a couple of times. He took his championship here. And there is former British GT driver Michael Igo. This will be all alien to him. Tight and naturally on the slippery bits here with the mud on the road at Cadwell Park in that Rally 2 Fiesta. He did win at Donington Park. Very different animal, the stages over there compared to here at Cadwell. Currently 5th place on the overall leaderboard. Will Atkins alongside in the Rally 2 Fiesta. 7 seconds behind Paul Murrow and Callum Cross, who you see coming into view here now on the handbrake. Oh, just getting that Fiesta lined up nicely for powering off up the hill into the assembly area here, which if you've done any kind of motorsport event or track day here is where you line up next to the race control cabin before you head out onto the circuit. And you can see the spectators out in force in front of the clubhouse here at Cadwell, enjoying the sunshine, bringing plenty of people out to enjoy the action. You can just see a scattering of people across the spectator banking on the main straight here at Cadwell Park as well. There's your 3rd place man, Rallycross star, showing all of his Rallycross skills to keep that Hyundai sideways and just out of the barriers. Ashley Moritz was on a plane to Nice at 10 o'clock last night from France to get here, having driven a Peugeot 208 R4 in Rally de Grasse. Over in France yesterday, 2-day event. She did quite well. I think she got a top 20 result. I think it was 21st last time I saw the leaderboard there, and she's hot-footed it back over here to Lincolnshire this morning to co-drive for Ollie. Ollie's been getting to grips with that Hyundai on these circuit events and was clearly keen to get his regular co-driver alongside him rather than having to learn a new style. Ashley Morris stepped in just to give a bit of a feel because she's used to doing these events as a driver, and now she's become a bit of a long-term co-driver for Ollie. Mark Kelly, Neil Coleman round for their 2nd lap. You'll see the crews round for, let me think, you're going to see them round twice, maybe 3 times actually, before they split off to the finish at the top of the gooseneck, heading back into the paddock here at Cadwell Park. Byron Hankins, James Swallow struggled a little bit in traffic on that first stage of the day. They're 7th place at the moment on the leaderboard in that Peugeot 208 T16. Should see Roger Duckworth coming into view very shortly. Here he comes in that really fresh looking liveried Fiesta R5. We're used to seeing Roger in a Subaru World Rally car. Local man. It's a good looking car, that, isn't it? It's almost got a Scottish flag down the back though. So as you see, 4th place with number 4 on the door, Paul Murrow and Callum Cross there in the Fiesta R5. Nice and neat and hunting that Fiesta R5 up ahead, down. Fiesta R5 is very much the cars to have in this circuit championship. At the moment, it would seem. It's a Fiesta R5 on top, of course. But don't discount men like Martin Hodgson, you see there in his Mark II Escort. Big power, clicky gearbox, pulling those sequential gears, but being hunted down by that Hyundai of Ollie O'Donovan, who will be frustrated to be held up just a little bit heading into the assembly area here at Cadwell Park, and it's really tight in there, a bit of a chicane through. 90 left, 90 right, heading back up the hill, so going back onto the circuit at the bottom of the mountain. Paul Walker, Liam Wiley there in their Mitsubishi Evo 9. There's Tony Robinson and Mark Jones. Easy to tell the two Skodas apart. Mark Kelly, Neil Coleman in that plain white Skoda, almost in looking like a test colour scheme, like when you see the R5s and the WRC machines out testing, compared to Tony Robinson in that now unmistakable, quite striking colour scheme. Steve Hill in that Mitsubishi, it's actually an Evo 5, correct myself from earlier. Popping and banging the anti-lag on those old Group N cars, still sounding glorious. And there's Ivan Hankin down from the northwest with James Swallow alongside. That 208 T16, quite a lot of variety creeping in albeit the Fiestas are still the out here in the Circuit Championship. Man who struggled on the first stage of the day, Daniel Bird, Tony Hart, stalled the car on quite a few of the tightest sections. I don't know, they're struggling with the car. Let me get into grips with it there in that Fiesta, but as you can see, a slow stage for him. All the way down in 17th on the overall leaderboard after the first stage of the day. Bring you the live results as we get them. At the moment, John Griffith and Emma Morrison have not only held on to their lead from the previous stage, they've actually extended it. 7 more seconds taken out of that Skoda Fabia R5 of Mark Kelly and Neil Coleman. It's a 9-second advantage at the top now. Ollie O'Donovan, Ashley Morris sticking with 3rd place, but they've closed the gap on the 2nd place. Skoda ahead of them, 2 seconds that gap now. Still very close in the top of the top 10. Martin Hodgson, Tony Jones there through. They were in retirement the last running of the Cadwell Park Rally, which was the North Humberside Stakes in November. They came 8th overall though on this rally, the Alan Healy Memorial Rally, organised by Border Motor Club this time last year, so don't discount them at all. Alistair Stable, Neil Jones have been really entertaining so far, as we've come to expect, just outside the top 10 in that Chevette on their last visit to Cadwell Park. And there's Paul Walker and Leah Wiley keeping things neat and tidy. Michael Igo then dropping into 5th place, the former Lamborghini British GT driver here at Cadwell Park. But I think it's his first visit here. Is it? It is. And that's a great looking car, isn't it, with its huge wing flapping around a bit on that Lotus Exige. Greg Inglis, Charlie Sayapane. A 3.5-mile dash then this 2nd stage of the day, dropping 2 miles on the roof on the 1st stage of the day. The car still starting at Charlie's exit, coming the wrong way down. Copies, it's slippery. You're braking downhill with a right-hand bend into a chicane. We've already seen people getting it wrong. We saw the Clio at Bridge and Royston Carey take out a couple of big tyres and smash that Clio into smithereens on the 1st stage of the day. Well, we didn't see it, but we saw the aftermath, didn't we? Paul Bird still really struggling with the Fiesta. They haven't got an awful lot of lock on these modern rally cars, but they're designed to be thrown around and danced around, as you see James Garner and Jack Goodhill doing just that in a car which is perfectly suited to a dry, sunny day at Cadwell Park. That Darien GTR, and it looks like we've got a bit of damage on that glorious looking Citroen DS3 R5 Evo of Jack Ives and David Reed. A bit of bodywork missing between the bumper and the front wing on the left-hand side, which is the driver's side on that car. Joseph Duffy, Aaron Brimble coming the Lotus Elite, just threading their way through. Quite a messy start to the day. You can see if you're just tuning into our live coverage of the Border Motor Club Alan Healy Memorial Stages, the penultimate round, round 7 of the MGJ Engineering Circuit Rally Championship. The 2nd visit to Cadwell Park this year, and you can just see how messy the 1st stage has been from the rallycross style of the circuit. Alistair Stable's interview there in his very sideways and great sounding and looking Vauxhall Chevette. Lots of mud dragged onto the circuit from the Ginetta G40, which you'll see from shortly, because they took a stage maximum. Nick Hurd and Ollie Matheson on the 1st stage, having got it all wrong. Paul Sheard there in his Mazda MX-5, a man who knows his way around this stage, or these stages here at Cadwell Park, and his way around the Mazda MX-5 very well. Runs those cars and was really the man behind, or was the man behind, introducing the Mazda MX-5 as a, not just a car to compete in, but an actual genre, category of competition here in the Circuit Championship. MX-5s having their own one-make series here for many years, and Paul back in the driver's seat after a couple of years out, seemingly enjoying himself today. And this is the car, looks great, doesn't it? William Moore, Stuart Moore, that Citroen C2, just feeling their way into things today, as you see Stephen Sawley and Rob Johnson behind. Really quick pair in that Escort. They were 15th overall, 3rd in the hotly contested Class C this time last year, or Class 3 as we know it on today's results here at the Alan Healy Memorial Stages. Giving that Escort ever so close to the wall, going up just in front of the clubhouse here, in front of the spectators. Popular place to spectate here at Cadwell on these rallies as the cars go through the assembly area. Quite a unique spectacle. Lends itself as well, you're almost on a bit of a viewing platform there. Sam and Jack Cox in the Clio, hunted down by James Garner and Jack Cuttle in the Darien GTR. 3.5 miles the mileage on this stage, barely time to warm the tyres, the brakes, and your driver up here on a rally stage compared to the 5.5 mile of the first stage. The organisers putting 6 different stage layouts in to get to the 45 competitive stage miles of the 9 stages we've got here for you today, and we'll be live on as many of them as possible as our schedule will allow. Of course, we are filming for the Seacon UK Rally Show as well, which you can watch on the Sky and Freeview channel, sporty stuff, as well as watching online on Special Stage, Facebook and YouTube. On the first Friday of every month, got action from the opening round of the MRF Tyres BTRDA Rally Championship, as well as the Lee Holland Memorial Stages and the Dukeries Rally, the rally that preceded this, where Michael Igoe took his convincing, emphatic victory in the Rally 2 Fiesta in the Circuit Championship. That's coming up on Friday. So don't miss that. Clive Hitchman, Jeremy Griffiths there. Sean Cunniff, just to recap on the top 5 then at the end of stage 2, as we've got it. John Griffiths, Emma Morrison, 9 seconds ahead of Mark Kelly and Neil Coleman in second place. And they have lost some time. Ollie O'Donovan, Ashley Morris gaining on them, 2 seconds behind in third. It's Paul Moreau, Callum Cross in 4th place, 6 seconds behind the Hyundai i20 R5. Then it's Michael Igoe, Will Atkins, Tony Robinson, Mark Jones, Roger Duckworth, Mark Fowler, Kyron Hankins, James Swallow, Martin Hodgson, Tony Jones, the first of our 2-wheel drive cars, and Jack Ives, David Reed in that slightly bent DS3 Citroen R5 Evo, and that's your top 10 as things stand. We'll give you an update on the class positions as we get them as we go further through this second stage of the day. The pair who struggled earlier on, Matthew Thompson, Howard Quidmore, BMW, just cooking the brakes and losing the brakes, in fact, in the pit lane section of the stage, and having to overshoot and wait for cars to pass before getting the car restarted back on the stage. Lost a lot of time as a result. Results.djames.org.uk is where you get your live results. Results.gjames, that's David James short for djames.org.uk. As you see, the men responsible for that mess on the circuit, Nick Hurd, Ollie Matteson in the Ginetta G40, just getting a wheel on the mud on the left-hand side of the access road, which is barely wide enough for a car's width coming up the hill, and that sent them pirouetting onto the grass, and they had to be recovered. Small wing escort Cosworth with Kev Franks, Nandi Rose sounds and looks brilliant, doesn't it? Nick Hurd actually had Monty Lowen with him in the Ginetta G40 on this event last year. He came 18th in the pretty hotly contested Class C. Clive Hitchman, Jeremy Griffiths in a car which is normally very sideways, but they're behaving themselves today sideways, as we long have since worked out. It's not the fastest way to drive a rally car. It's not the modern way, is it? But there's still plenty of that here today. You'll be pleased to know, to entertain you, Ian Jarvis, Paul Train, the Mitsubishi Evo 9. Another crew that were just struggling a little bit on the first stage to perhaps get heat into the tyres and get that car and driver warmed up and into the rhythm. But at the moment it's car 1 coming here as mathematically having sewn up the Circuit Rally Championship. John Griffiths, Emma Morrison leading the way. All very close to the leaderboard at the moment, though. As you see, Steve Dolman and Julia Perry, they finished just ahead of the Ginetta G40 on last year's event. 17th in Class C, just inside the top 40 overall, and 38th in that Mazda MX-5. Quite a few Mazdas to get yourself a bit of a benchmark today. Matthew and Rachel Sample in that Mitsubishi. Land just struggled a little bit in that first stage of the day, and just pulling over there to allow the BMW of Matthew Thompson and Howard Quidmore through. If you're new to circuit rallying, no, plenty of you will know what's going on here, but you'll see cars through for 3 times round on this stage. There's splits and merges. Splits are basically junctions that allow you to extend the mileage on one of these venues to get the most out of the various roads and parts of the circuit available. And merges are the opposite and the product of the splits, where you come on to the circuit, having started the stage, and there will already be cars competing, so you've got to watch out when you come on the stage to make sure that you don't get collected by the car that's already out and running. Those splits and merges are all on the club circuit for this first part of the day. We change the format around as we go through the day, though, and we'll talk you through those later stage combinations as we get to them. But there's 45 stage miles over 9 stages here, which, given it's a 3.5 mile sprint, gives you some idea of what you can expect from the action and the format today. Anthony Windle, John Henley just lighting up the rear tyres and lighting up the soundtrack here as well at Cadwell Park with the sound of that Rover V8 in the Triumph TR7, the American-sourced V8, the Chrysler V8 as it started life, known as the very famous Rover V8, not quite as British as you might think. And there we have a bit of a crunch into the tyres. Ian Jarvis, Paul Train, as I say, just struggling ever so slightly. It is tight. Don't underestimate how tight these sections of stage are. It's all very well beeping your horn because you're stuck behind a car, but if that car is stuck and trying to restart the engine, Paul Gorge, Harriet Worth in their Mazda MX-5 desperate to get past. Sometimes there's very little they can do, but the Mitsubishi is back underway. Sometimes you may have experienced it if you've ever got a classic car or a performance car on the road. Hot starts can be a problem. Hot fuel and you know, just panicking and getting flustered in the heat at the moment, getting those cars restarted if you've stalled them, and that's exactly what happened there, just holding up Paul Gorge in the Mazda MX-5, and now that Mitsubishi will probably be held up by the Mazda. Not that his stage time is going to be affected too much, because I think you'll find that it's not exactly going to be a stage time he's going to be shouting about when he gets back to the service area. After that, a bit of damage on the front bumper to go as well. Bill Rutledge, Alex Rutledge, they were 4th in Class 2 last season, just being hounded down by that Mitsubishi Galant in its Works-esque livery. Looks great, doesn't it? Very Group A-esque, even if it's more production spec Group N as it arrives here in the Lincolnshire Wolds. This is the first rally of the year where we've got some sunshine to keep us warm, and it's lovely out here. Perfect conditions, but still pretty slippery on some sections of the circuit. Not wet, just a bit green, we say in racetrack language, don't we? Mark Curran, Jamie Curran alongside up from Middlesex in their BMW E36 Compact. They were getting all manner of sideways angles coming up onto the top of the mountain at 90 right. On the first stage of the day, that Mini, there you see George Clark and Stephen Moses stalled at the hairpin and lost a considerable amount of time on that first stage. Just in front of our camera here, Lee Ryan and, not that one, and Paul Webster there in their Escort. Just sometimes you catch your car in front with 30-second gaps on these circuit rallies, particularly with splits and merges taken into account. It can be quite frustrating. It's the nature of the game, an occupational hazard in circuit rallying, particularly when the stages are tight here. Here's a man who was really getting to grips and throwing this Martini liveried Ford Focus around. Jonathan Haynes and James Rudd on the first stage of the day. Paul Gorge, Harriet Worth showing why they were so frustrated to be held up on that hairpin. Lovely bit of driving in that Mazda MX-5, the Paul Sheard liveried car. Paul, of course, competing in the plain white Mazda MX-5. A little further up the entry at car number 99, a late entry today. This is Kev Monaghan, Chris Purvis's old Corsa Super 1600 kit car in the hands of Daniel Poole. And Irvine John Holtham. Great sounding car, clicky box, pulling the revs in that Corsa kit car as Wide Arches just narrowly missing the tyres on the apex of that hairpin up the hill here in front of the spectators, who it's fair to say have been enjoying themselves today. Hello to Mason, Dave and Penty, who are tuned into the broadcast today. And if you're watching at home or wherever you're watching from, I suppose, Tim Rogers, you'll have finished your breakfast by now. Where are you doing today? It's great to have you joining us. We're going to be live with you throughout the day on Special Stage, on the Facebook page, on the YouTube channel. As you see, a hard-charging Keith Anglesey and Christine Pearson through their BMW Compact. They were going well on the first stage of the day as well. We'll be live on YouTube, on Facebook, and on the Border Motor Club social media channels as well throughout the day, with as much action as we can possibly cram into our live coverage today of this penultimate round of the MGJ Engineering Circuit Rally Championship. This round 7, the second visit to Cadwell Park. That's a really nice, strong-sounding engine in that Nissan Micra of Oliver Howard and Simon Howard. First visit here to Cadwell Park. If you're just tuning in, it's been a tumultuous start. That's a good word, isn't it? Sort of word you generally avoid using on a Sunday morning, but there it is. To the day. Quite dramatic out there, lots of incidents. You can see the rallycross style stage in front of you at the top of the mountain here. James Toynton in his 16-valve, very unique wide arch, big extended bonnet Mini. James used to own Mamby Motorplex, for those of you who, like me, began their rally careers charging around the stages there. I love those stages at Mamby, absolutely good to be lost that. James was the man behind Mamby, and local man. He's had that Mini from a long time since, and it's undergone a bit of a refresh ahead of last year. Coming out and doing a full championship, certainly on local rounds, he's been very formidable in that car. We'll bring you, as I say, a rundown of the class results as we get further into this stage, but just looking towards the overall leaderboard at the moment. John Griffiths and Emma Morrison started today with a 2-second advantage over 2021 Circuit Rally champions Mark Healy and Neil Coleman in the Skoda Fabia R5. They've extended that lead to 9 seconds now, taking further 7 seconds. My maths is good today, isn't it? Out of the Skoda, and it's at the moment William Clark and Nick Roberts showing as third place in the Renault Clio Williams. I'm not sure if that's an errant result. Perhaps they missed a split. There were 2 laps around this stage, 1 less than the previous stage, which drops a couple of miles on the mileage. William Clark and Nick Roberts currently showing as third place, splitting the Skoda Fabia R5 and the Hyundai i20 R5. But let's, until we get confirmation, suggest that that might just be an errant stage time. David Large, David Otto, I don't know if they've got old tyres on that Escort, but it's ever so slippery for them coming up into these Nadgery sections of the stage. So yeah, an interesting time. The first of the 2-wheel drive cars, apart from that, what looks like an errant time from William Clark and Nick Roberts, which, if I'm right, will turn into a maximum time by the end of the stage. It's Martin Hodgson, Tony Jones. They came 8th place overall this time last year here on the Alan Healy Memorial Rally. They're in 10th place overall at the minute, but it's one heck of an entry. That leaderboard full of R5s and Rally 2 cars here. That's a good-looking car, isn't it? The BMW Compact with its wide arches, very GTR style of Colin Adams, Mandy Lovely. They came 38th overall on the November Cadwell Park Rally, the North Humberside stages, that big fireworks spectacular. If you haven't done that event here at Cadwell Park as a spectator, it's fabulous. Got all the action from the rally cars, plus the other entertainment that Cadwell Park puts on during the day, followed by a really spectacular, and it is spectacular, no expense spared from MSV firework display on the evening. Sean Stanfield, Thomas Stanfield out in their new car for the first time. Local crew, father and son, Border Motor Club members, usually out supporting other events as marshals. Here they are competing on their home event. They had an MGZR on the last rally. This time out, it is that really smart looking Chandler's sponsored, Chandler's Farm Equipment, of course, where Sean works, BMW. Charlotte Wainwright has managed to keep her wing mirror attached on that Mazda MX-5 today, co-driving for Peter Taylor. She didn't manage that at Donington Park. It's been reattached and has been folded up to avoid being taken off on one of the chicanes. Good to see Charlotte back out. She's one of the busiest co-drivers in club rallying, I think. Charlotte Wainwright, always got a big smile on her face. Known Charlotte since my early F1000 days competing in stage rallies. Always nice to see her out on these events. And nice to see she's got her wing mirror attached today. You see that? Renault Clio, former Cup racing car of Nigel Aiken and John Shepherd. I think it's their first visit here, you know, to Cadwell Park. Here's a car that was just, not so much on this way around. I was going to give him a big build-up then, but I'm glad I didn't, because he didn't exactly live up to the reputation of earlier on. But Robert Nutter by name, Robert Nutter by nature, in that Toyota Corolla AE86, absolutely throwing it around, dancing around like you see those Toyota Corollas dancing around on the Irish lanes in the Irish Tarmac Championship, and just really putting on a display for the spectators in the first stage of the day. I drove Alex Allingham's Corolla AE86. You can see that film at carfilms.co.uk, and there's some clips of some other AE86 Corollas very sideways in action, including Andrew Harkness in his works liveried car. Carfilms.co.uk if you fancy a bit of classic car action with some rally car footage thrown in. But those Toyota Corollas are iconic in rallying. We don't see many of them anymore because they all went to Ireland after doing their stints as road rally cars here in the UK, and they're worth a fortune now. You're talking 30 odd grand for an immaculate example now, so great to see one out being thrown around and just narrowly being kept out, and at times not being kept out of the barriers and the furniture on the chicanes here at Cantwell Park. Oh, there we are, look. Nicely sideways there from the Mazda MX-5 of Peter Taylor and Charlotte Wainwright, just charging up the hill after that new BMW, or new to them, of Sean Stanfield and Tom alongside. As I mentioned, a new car for them. Good to see local dad and lad. They started out doing track days here at Cadwell in their MG ZR. I remember Sean saying to me, I'm going to have a go at one of the rallies here, you know. Good on them, because they've been getting faster and faster, and they are a pair who absolutely love their rallying. When they're not in the car, they're out there giving back, and I saw them most recently on the East Riding stages, the first round of the Pro Tyre Motorsport UK Asphalt Rally Championship in East Riding on the roads near Beverley, of course, and they were representing Border Motor Club, marshalling in those lanes. James Palmer-Smith, David Palmer-Smith alongside their Vauxhall Corsa, and you are about to see, I was going to say, you're about to see some sideways driving. It was a bit too sideways, wasn't it? But I told you, Robert Nutter by name, Robert Nutter by nature. That is one of the best looking cars here today. I'll die on that hill all day long. Number 64, Alan Ellis. Richard Ashton alongside in that Mark II Astra with its compomotive front wheels. Really good looking stage rally car, the sort of car that I was used to seeing rallying here back in the late 80s when I used to come. 3 years old, I was first at the side of a stage at Cadwell Park watching rallying. I remember Brian Bell in his Metro 6R4 in those days. Richard Ashton alongside in that Mark II Astra is normally part of the medical team, the rescue team, sorry, I should say, that you're used to seeing out on these events. Calder Rescue. Good to see Richard get inside that car, but he struggled to shut Richard up, so I bet there's plenty of pace notes being called, as well as some pretty family-friendly action inside that car. Richard won't mind me saying that, I am sure. David Frank Dalton there. Matt Wood alongside. Matt knows these stages well, normally in his Corsa, of course. First event, I think, for Davey Dalton, unless EWRC has missed a few off in that Mazda RX-8, but it's very, very bent. I think it must have arrived here bent, otherwise it's had a pretty emotional morning after only one stage of the day so far, because the full left-hand side of that Mazda RX-8 is pretty bent. Maz Miller, Ian Davidson in their Nissan Micra there. They were fourth in Class A on this event last year, surely looking for a podium position. Shall we have a look at some of the class results? Oliver Howard currently leading the way in Class 1, which is the 1400 class in his Nissan Micra. Ian Barnes, you saw them just now with Jason Cutter alongside in the Ford KA, just over half a minute back. But I'll tell you what, that Micra of Oliver Howard and Simon Howard will be a hell of a match to get on terms with in a pushrod engine Ford KA. I think it's still got the 1300 pushrod. Paul Sheehan heads the way. I told you he knew what he was doing in the Mazda MX-5 in Class 2, the 1600 front-wheel drive class. As you see, Jason Phillips, Zoe Phillips, top 10 in Class B, the 1600 class, on last year's event in their Nissan Sunny GTI-R. Oh, a lovely bit of driving there, just keeping the Corsa neat and tidy, hugging the apex on that hairpin up the hill from James and David Palmer-Smith. So yes, Paul Sheard, Colin Stevens on an identical overall time in Class 2, the 1600 class, from Joseph Duffy and Aaron Brimble coming the Lotus Elise. which is deceptive, because you know what, that Lotus must have been really neat and tidy. It didn't look that quick through this stage, so it just shows, doesn't it? Lightweight, get the power down, you can afford to keep it a bit neater and tidier and not take too many risks and throw it around too much. Certainly been effective so far. Daniel Paul, Irvine, Haltom in that, ex-Kev Monaghan, Corsa Kit Car in third place. Then James Toynton, ex-Mambi Motorplex man, Evie Ewing alongside in the Mini fourth place. Class 3, that's a 2-litre, two-wheel drive. William Clark, Nick Roberts in the Clio Williams. Again, they're still showing as third overall at the moment, but I think they took over a minute out of their closest competition in that stage, so I think we'll see that corrected as a stage maximum. They've missed a split. Frustrating, but it does happen. It's happened to me, it's happened to the best of us. Not that I'm saying I was anywhere near the best of us in a rally car. Just to clear that up. Steve Dolman, Julia Perry in their Mazda MX-5 in second, and Lee Ryan, Paul Webster in the Escort, third place. Class 3. Class 4, Martin Hodgson in the Mark II Escort, as you probably expect. First of our two-wheel drive cars on the entry. As Maz Miller, Ian Davidson met their way up to the assembly area here at Cadwell Park. And just to recap on the overall top 5 at the moment, John Griffiths, Emma Morrison lead the way. They've got a 9-second advantage over Mark Kelly and Neil Colvin in the Skoda Fabia R5, our 2021 champions, chasing our newly crowned, mathematically speaking, MGJ Engineering Circuit Rally champions. Then it's Ollie O'Donovan, Ashley Morris. Clearly that flight over from France through the night for Ashley from the Rally de Grasse, where she was competing in a 208 R4 yesterday, has not dampened spirits inside that Hyundai. The Rallycross star, third place at the moment, only 2 seconds back from second. Paul Murrow, Callan Cross, hard charging in fourth. It's Michael Iger, Will Atkins coming here confident and brimming with desire for another victory after winning last time out at Donington Park. They're currently in 5th place on the leaderboard. Then it's Tony Robertson, Roger Duckworth, Karen Hankin, Jack Ives and Daniel Bird, who has been struggling here today but still managing to get a top 10 on the leaderboard so far in Class E, but he'll drop back a bit because you've got Martin Hodgson in the mix there in the Escort, of course. More live coverage coming up here on Special Stage on the Facebook page, on the YouTube channel and on the Border Motor Club social media as we bring you live coverage of the Alan Healy Memorial Rally from Cadwell Park. We'll see you soon. Don't forget to tune in for the next stream, which will be along in just a few minutes time for Stage 3.